Make sure to check for carbon monoxide leaks and mold in your house, as they can lead to seemingly unexplainable occurrences and detriments to your mental and physical health. Welcome back. Hello, welcome. Or as I should say, you're welcome. Because do you know the shit that I've had to do to make this video? Man, it's crucial and painful. I've had to sit on my couch for more than
33
hours for your ass. Totally not for my own enjoyment and pop cultural enrichment. Okay, before I get into reviewing each specific one, I want to say I have never watched a single fucking thing related to Lord of the Rings ever. Of course, I grew up with the memes and stuff because, you know, I grew up. I was born in 2003. I grew up with Lord of the Rings memes my whole fucking life. As people who have been born around that age have as well. Whether you know it or not, we'll get into that. I have already watched everything in advance now. I am all caught up, and I'm going to give you a Normies look at Lord of the Rings. Now, there are a few things I want to say just in general about the franchise in and of itself. First off, the atmosphere. The atmosphere in these movies and shows is so fucking good. I've watched other fantasy franchises, which, hey, I might do a future a Normies look on about, but none can really, I don't know, really encapsulate me as much as the ambiance in these movies and shows can. Parts that stand out to me after watching everything: the Shire is great, Rohan, Rivendell, and of course Mordor. For the Hobbit trilogy, it would probably be Gollum's Water, or I think it's called like the Dark Lake, Inside of the Lonely Mountain, and Lake Town. Lake Town was cool. And even though the show definitely has time to get you to love all of these settings, Khazad-dûm was beautiful through and through, with the 2 seasons of the show that are out currently as of publishing of this video. Just the idea, like, everything is so stoic and strong and like made out of the fucking mountain, but it's also bathed in this kind of comforting, warm colors, you know? I really like that, especially when it goes dark, when it goes under. It somehow still encapsulates that warm, comforting tone. And the last thing is the exhibition. Exposition. The exposition. The exposition is a lot. It's a lot. All except for The Hobbit, it starts off really exposition heavy. And that's saying a lot because The Hobbit is still very exposition heavy. Especially in the first Lord of the Rings, like the first one. It was just like, that beginning narrative was just like, this guy named this, does this thing. And in response, this man named this, did this thing. It was a lot to keep in this little ADHD brain of mine. I hate to say it, but by the time I finished the first trilogy, there were still so much that I was like, who? When? Where? By the end of the Hobbit trilogy, I felt I had a little bit better of a bearing on things. By the end of the show of season 2 of Rings of Power, I'm pretty into it now, I'd say. But without further ado, let's actually get into the minutia of things. Welcome to a Normies look. Enjoy. This movie felt both boring and exciting at times. It definitely has the run span to, you know, explore both sides of that spectrum. In the beginning half, and maybe even 3/4 of the movie, it feels like I'm being spoon-fed a lot of information, and then by the end, there's this like big action sequence. Gandalf's death scene wasn't really that impactful for me when I was watching it. Yes, the fly you fools, that one. Boromir's death, though, I felt that was handled a lot better. And it's kind of obvious why, you know, because I don't think Boromir comes back, but we get Gandalf back. Boromir, it's a lot more like, he's dead, this is it. You know, time to mourn. Oh, before I go on, the derpy parts of this movie. I know it must be charming and nostalgic for the people that grew up with it, but as a normie, as someone who is just getting into this franchise, it is kind of unignorable at parts just how derpy people's faces are. You know, maybe that goes to a conversation of like how movies have gotten very yassified. I don't know. I want to see more Danny DeVitos, you know? I want to see more... Actually, this is the thing. I don't feel comfortable with calling out certain actors because it implies that they're like ugly, but they're not. They're more normal looking than All right, I'm gonna drop it. Anyways, I had no idea just how much these first 3 movies are memed. I don't think you will understand until you watch them. Every 30 minutes, I feel like there's a meme that I've seen or heard, and I'm like, what the fuck? That's from this? And of course, there were times where I'm like, I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for the, and my axe. I'm waiting for the one does not simply, you know, I'm waiting for it. By the way, those 2 memes happen in the same scene. Whatever. I think that goes hand in hand with how derpy the movie can be at times. Overall, great movie, great atmosphere. That is why I will be coming back to the second one. I mean, I'm gonna watch them anyways, but that's what I'm more excited for going into the second one, which is The Two Towers. And no jokes will be made about that title. We are starting to get a little overcrowded with all these goddamn side characters. The Smeagol back and forth scene was so good. Scenes like that in movies really have to rely on fantastic performance, and in this case, also fantastic CGI, and I think they both pulled it off amazingly. I liked Treebeard. I like the treants. I just think that Merry and Pippin didn't have really fuck all to do in this movie, and that's why they were just like riding with the treants. Case in mind, I do have ADHD. It's not an excuse, I'm explaining myself. I'm gonna say like a month. It took a whole month to get through all of these. So, you know, by the end, I'm more fuzzy on where it began and shit like that, so yeah. You know, between franchises, with The Hobbit and The Rings of Power, there are years that go by where fandoms can flourish. I didn't have that. So, Battle of Helm's Deep. More like Battle of Helm's Dope. Oh, shit! Can you tell that I just made that up? Although, it is interesting to have a fight take place at night on a dark mountain with everyone in dark armor. It's a little bit difficult to see what the fuck is going on. Oh my god, that ending. That ending was so awkward to me. 100% it feels like they were just like, okay, this is not the last movie, there's gonna be another one, but we're just gonna end it here where things usually die down. And even then, I feel like there should have been a different like music choice or build up, because I feel like it really just end. Like, 3 minutes before the ending like title, you're like, oh, is it ending? Are we ending right now? And then it fucking ends. What's the motives of the villain here, Sauron? This might piss off a lot of people. It just feels like he's evil, like good and evil. You know, I'm not really understanding the motive. Maybe this is a franchise where I do have to turn off my brain and just be like good and evil. But also for like one of the most popular fucking cultural milestones in this country, it just feels like there should be more thought put into the good and evil shit, but whatever. Yeah, but with that being said, let's get into the final movie of the first trilogy. The fucking ring of the what? The Return of the King. Loved the opening scene with Gollum's origin. I don't know why, it felt so right. You know, it like, yes, that's how you would open up this movie. Yes, I did tear up when Merry and Pippin separated in the beginning, okay? All right, I did. They're so fucking derpy and cute looking, I'm sorry. By 2 hours into the movie, it feels like everything is culminating. So many events and happenstances had to happen to bring it all to this one point. And the ambiance and the imagery, the slow imagery and the swelling music all resemble a calm before the storm. When Sam rescued Frodo from that one random orc, there was a very specific scene that I loved. Let me explain it. I think earlier on, I can't remember if it was Sam or Frodo, but the ring gets thrown away or something, or stolen by Gollum, whatever. And it's revealed that Sam actually held on to the ring, and this should be happy info for Frodo. But Frodo immediately demands for the ring, which makes Sam hesitate a little bit, and there is this just lull in the air. Which one is being influenced by the ring? Furthermore, if it's both of them, who is getting influenced stronger? Is Sam being manipulated to keep the ring for himself more now, or is that completely out of just goodwill? I don't know. Really, really great moment there. I loved that scene. Merry yelling, Frodo! When they realized that the ring has been destroyed was so emotional for me. That wake up scene though, with Frodo in the bed. With or without the context, that is one of the silliest and funniest scenes in like American pop culture. I think especially where it's placed in the movie too. Again, it just feels like this is like, oh, the orcs are evil because they're evil and they're orcs, so they're evil, you know, because they're orcs. Yeah, really good trilogy. The CGI in this, especially for the time it came out, is fucking phenomenal. As well as having like a consistent, frequent, wide shot, the landscape. It's beautiful. Samwise is a great character. A little bland, but I love him. Sean Astin played him amazingly as the timid but, you know, determined side character. Most of the time, Sam was fucking right and no one fucking listened to him. I'm still mad. Love you, Sam. I'll always fight for you, baby. Aragorn and Legolas kind of played the same role for me throughout the trilogy. Again, I should mention, this is all my opinion. Fuck off. Sorry. Legolas is the pretty face during the action scenes and the speaker for the elves, and Aragorn is the pretty face during the action scenes and the speaker for himself. Good all around. Good inclusions. Love them. I'm sorry, but what was Arwen's role in this whole trilogy? It straight up just feels like every movie she has like 1 or 2 scenes dedicated to looking at the camera or looking just off camera and having a flashback about her and Elrond. I forget. Fuck. I don't know how she is in the books, but I feel like the writers really just did not utilize her, and it got really stale by the 3rd movie. I was just like, I know what's gonna happen. You see her face and you know what's gonna happen. Okay, Sauron was low-key underwhelming. While watching it, I wasn't sure if he was the eye, or was he the tower, or was he like the flame? He was the flame guy. He was a flame guy. By the time you're at the last movie, the narration is so long ago that you really gotta forget his motives. All in all though, brilliant trilogy, amazing at world building, 80% of the time, very, very good. Should be said, Elijah Wood kind of suffers from that protagonist role of being like a blank sheet of paper for the audience to insert themselves. We love him. We love Frodo. And I do love Frodo. That guy's pretty cool. Look at him. But yeah, that was the first trilogy. Yeah, I'm excited to get into the next trilogy, which is... We immediately return to the Shire, and this time the camera quality's better, and it is fucking gorgeous. God, I would love to live there if there was Wi-Fi and, you know, weed, which, I don't know. I like that, no offense, I think Bilbo has a lot more going on than Frodo, having a more reluctant, timid nature, being able to bounce off the party more well with that, and then being kind of like the blank sheet of paper that I previously said about Frodo. The return of Gollum in this movie I thought was incredible. It felt really thoroughly thought out and like well directed. And you know, you gotta have Gollum in a Lord of the Rings thing, right? Can you imagine if you didn't have Gollum in a Lord of the Rings thing? I really liked Thorin in this movie. I thought they were gonna do another Aragorn situation, but making him more hot-headed, I feel like, and racist makes him like a very predictable and conflict-causing party member. And I like that. I don't like the racism. I like my expectations being subverted. Moving on. I don't know what's in Gandalf's pipe for this movie, but he is a lot more goofier, and I fucking love it. Yeah, pretty dope. Moving on to the second movie, which is, spoiler alert, my favorite movie out of all this shit. Smaug's introduction was great. Great build up, great visual effects. The having the gold on the ground, I feel like was a great inclusion for the ring, the Arkenstone, and Smaug himself. It was a bit silly to have him be tricked by a hey you over here!
Hey you big dum-dum, come and get me!
You think I'm joking, but that was very, very similar to what went on in the movie, and it worked. How many times do the elves have to save everyone's ass? I feel like it should just be expected at this point. Also, did they change Legolas's eyes? Did they? For some reason, they just felt different this time around. Bard was a cool conclusion. I like it. I like having the perspective of someone who's not caught up in all this quest bullshit and seeing, you know, a little bit of the politics around Middle-earth. It was appreciated. Thorin should be naked and hairless by the end of this movie with the amount of times that he's been caught in the middle of a fucking huge flame. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how you do a cliffhanger. Now, a lot of people do not like this cliffhanger, I do know that, but I think that makes an even better cliffhanger. The music, the cinematography, the action, the story, it all felt like, damn, you know, damn, now I gotta see the next movie. It really gets ya, you know, and I like that. I don't care. I don't care if people don't like it. Fuck you. I like it. What the hell did Gandalf do in this movie? I literally can't remember. Gandalf felt more utilized during this one, but not enough to the point where I feel like it was necessary. Radagast was a good foil to Gandalf though, but even that was pretty short-lived. 75% of these Gandalf scenes can be erased in the movie and it would kind of be, be the same, just without some exposition, I guess. Thorin was an excellent character. Having this descent into anger and greed and all culminate into this one point for him to be a lone king, ruler of no one and nothing, until he, thought about it a little bit and changed his mind. Just like that. I don't know really what I was expecting with a franchise like this and how it deals with good and evil, but again, kind of silly. Oh my god, that introduction scene with Elrond, Galadriel, and Saruman, fucking so good. It surprised me, it was cool looking, and it didn't too much feel all that fan servicey. And when they're all fighting Sauron, by the way, in that scene, Sauron looks so fucking cool. Like, such a unique visual signature for this villain. He looked more terrifying than in any of the Lord of the Rings movies. Sorry about it, I said it. That Lord Dane shit was real sudden, huh? Also, was he CGI for most of it? What the fuck was up with that? Is that just me? I should research into this more in case it's like maybe a little insensitive thing for me to be ranting about.
Bing bum boom, right on the record. He got Parkinson's disease. His name is Billy O'Connelly, and it got worse over time while filming. So the person who was making the movies, out of respect, decided to completely redo the character in CGI.
Oddly enough, I loved the inclusion of Alfred in this. He's such a slimy little Weasley fuck who you love to hate and genuinely irks me. Also, can anybody give anyone else a plan besides Alfred? Like, you stupid, goddamn stupid fucking idiots. I love the framing of getting the like handful of dwarves into the battle of the 5 armies. Everyone in the movie and even the movie itself knows plot armor. Like, it's just a handful of dwarves. It's so fucking stupid. I love it. And of course they win. Of course they win. I gotta say, with this franchise's dealings with good and bad is very bland. I do feel like The Hobbit, at least, is a little better at fleshing out how good people can do bad things. I think that Toriel was a personal apology for Arwen. Toriel really had a great personality. She went out in the battlefield. She has a very distinct look to her and her combat. In fact, there are still a few characters that I feel would do great with their own solo projects. Toriel, Thorin, and Bard all come to mind. Okay, so the Arkenstone is like this trilogy's ring, but like, does it do anything? Like, the ring makes you invisible, right? That's its thing. But I don't think the Arkenstone really does anything. It still corrupts you like the ring does, but I don't fucking think it does anything except glow. I loved the Lord of the Rings motif whenever the ring was shown. At first, it felt like a nice, cute little callback, but then eventually it became ingrained in the Hobbit franchise itself. And just felt like, yeah, like now when I hear that motif, I'm not only going to think of the Lord of the Rings movies, I'm also going to think about the Hobbit movies. Bilbo was easily my favorite out of the 2 Bagginses. His arc from being a pushover and a hermit to being a moral thief who stands up to monarchies is fucking amazing. He's not a different character at this point. He's still Bilbo Baggins, and I love that. Martin Freeman does an amazing job. Do they ever explain why Bilbo doesn't get corrupted as fucking fast as Frodo does? Do they? If they do, I'm sorry, but I don't think they do. Bolg's death scene was alright, wasn't it? You know, I get that Legolas had like an unresolved fight scene with him in the previous movie, but like, he literally just killed Tauriel's like lover. I feel like it should have been her kill, but whatever. Azog was a cool villain, I guess. I like how he had, like, some action to do in the first one. I can't really remember him doing anything of note in the second one, and then he had a couple fight scenes in the third one. Radagast and Bjorn returning in that final battle was a nice little unexpected surprise. That was pretty cool. All in all, a great movie, and a good finale to the trilogy, and I think I can officially say, y'all, I like the Hobbit movies more than the Lord of the Rings movies. Before anything, while watching The Hobbit, I was literally thinking Galadriel having a show would be great. I will say there are a lot of shots that don't need to be here. The previous movies took their time because they had the time, but now they have even more time to take their time, and it's just so much time. Durin, grade A character, along with Disa. His relationship with Disa, his friendship with Elrond, the political drama with him and his dad, like, highlights of that season, I will say. Following that, though, the Harfoot storyline with Nori and the stranger, who is Gandalf, was a close second. It was. I loved seeing the environment and the vibe of the Harfoots. With how the show can kind of get lost in its regality and spectacle, it's really good to have a kind of sense of normalcy and the resemblance of the hobbits in the Shire with Nori and the stranger. Gandalf, I'll just say Gandalf. Yeah, those nice little breaks were nice. Love Poppy too. Poppy's great. I forgot to mention her. Gandalf was cool in the series too. Of course, you don't know it's Gandalf until like the end of season 2 for sure, but it kind of wasn't the focus of most things. It was definitely with his storyline and with like other storylines that might bleed into it. But like the entire show, you're not like, oh, and who's that guy? And I really like that for some reason. It kind of stays in its lane. I'm a mystery, but hey, I'm not gonna shove the mystery in your face, you know, you can figure that out if you really want to. Granted, I don't know anything about Saruman's backstory. 80% of this show, including season 2, I was sold that he was Saruman. I was like, no one else is saying it on the internet. He's Saruman. I know he is. He's Gandalf. He's the other one. He's the other fucking old white wizard. Galadriel as this hardened warrior was cool. They don't give us much to go off with in the movies. I mean, we do get her very kind of peaceful, wispy nature, but I feel like there's a lot that you can take liberty with that character, which is why I wanted to show from her in the first place, and I feel like the writers really took advantage of that in season 1. I like how even though she does like learn and like experience things within the show, she still has these flaws in her. The emotional distance and the thirst for conflict is still within her spirit, especially with her conversation with Adar pretty well into the series, and just shows that she completely is still on this path of vengeance. Elrond was cool. Although I didn't really care for that many of the elves in season 1. Seeing the golden age of Khazad-dûm, as I said before, was amazing. That was fucking brilliant. Love it. The reveal of Halbrand being Sauron legitimately caught me off guard. That was so cool. Lovely too, because I was really hoping that Sauron was gonna be a hot guy, and the forging of the 3 elven rings was like the first time in the show where I felt like I was like, all right, I'm caught up now. If I'm not mistaken, that's like the last episode, which brings me to the addendums for season 1. I will say, I'll give it its flowers beforehand. Every episode is a goddamn masterpiece. It better be, since every episode cost about $50 to $60 million. Although the visuals were nice though, I had no idea what the fuck was going on at any given point. Up until the final episode, I was confused why everything was such a big deal. I felt like I was missing so many important details, but I just got done watching everything there is to watch. I didn't watch like the animated one, I think, in the 80s.
Be careful, Frodo.
But I loved the atmosphere of Numenor. That was pretty dope. Again, though, like everything in the show, I kind of got lost in the nuance of like the political shit. But it did feel like I was really there, like walking amongst the civilians. That set design was so cool. I was also proud of myself for remembering Isildur, because I did. When I heard that name, I was like, I know that name. I know what he did. Even though I think in season 1 he doesn't have a lot to do. That much of importance, I guess. Adar looked cool, loved the vibe. I don't think he's hot though. I think they were trying to go for like a half elf, half orc, sexy dark guy. I don't know, he was not hot for me. The politics behind Mithril was pretty good. That I could follow pretty well. That was pretty concise. I didn't give a fuck about the Palantir. I didn't give a fuck about the malnourished looking Aryans. I don't even know their names. The reveal of Mordor was dope. Rest in peace, Sadik. With that kind of weird, bland communion wafer taste in my mouth, it is time to get to our last thing to watch, which is the Rings of Power Season 2. Let's get into it. Oh, that was awful. Okay. They listened. I don't know what they put in the brew while cooking up season 2. Bars. But it is leagues better than the first season. For some reason, the pacing, the dialogues, the character arcs, the subplots, the callbacks, the tie-ins, everything was just so good. Or at least felt improved from season 1. Galadriel now feels more like a cog in the story than the protagonist, I'll say. It feels less centered around her fully and more like all the other characters, how she fits into the forever onward pressing plot. Gil-galad in the first season I really didn't give a fuck about, but after kind of accepting him being more of a boring noble leader type role, I got to tolerate him a lot more in season 2. I love the Elrond story, especially in the beginning when he runs away from the elves. We love to see a bootlicker gone rogue. Seeing him at the end in the battle too is also very nice. We get to see a lot of sides of this character that we haven't before. The Eregion and Celebrimbor storyline was so fucking mwah. We knew Sauron would rise to the occasion. We knew all the other rings were going to be made, and now it was just a matter of how. And seeing Sauron successfully manipulate Celebrimbor through the entire season into getting exactly what he wanted every time. It was a really love-to-hate situation. You love to hate this fucker. Especially with his subtle ass fucking shit-eating side smirk. I'm talking about Anatar. Seeing the descent of a Celebrimbor and that final scene where he's like pleading with people. Once again, Anatar just comes out on top is, oh my god, it's so brutal. And then leading into the death scene. I mean, farewell Celebrimbor, that was great. That was so good. Season 1, I didn't give a fuck about you. You blew it out of the park. The Easterlings in this show look so fucking sick. Look at that. Look at that shit. I want that. The Dark Wizard was also giving Saruman. Fuck! One of you have to be Saruman, I know! The Nori and Gandalf storyline around this time felt a little less interesting. It was starting to take a backseat to the more regal and spectacle parts of the show, which I feel are really kind of unfortunate. But also, the chemistry around Nori and Gandalf seemed like different this time. It was weird. It felt more bland. Who the fuck is Tom Bombadil? I don't know who that is. It's not Gandalf. I thought it was Gandalf, but it's not Gandalf. But his name reveal seemed as important as a Gandalf figure. Was he one of the blue wizards that Gandalf mentioned in like The Hobbit in a throwaway line? I don't know. I don't read. Isildur's storyline definitely picked up. Loved seeing him on his hind legs in the defensive. Pharazôn in the first season, again, wasn't really interested. This is really where they get into the oppressive forces of fascism, corruption within the government. And I like how it's very aggravating every step of the way, just to watch it unfold. This whole time, Elendil, Arian, give me some grace, y'all, and Tar-Miriel all were interesting as fuck and easier to watch this time around. The 7 Dwarven Rings corrupting King Durin the Senior was a great storyline. I loved that. The family drama that comes with it felt like a fucking soap opera at points. Also, Disa just gets even more cooler and badass during the season. Disa's whole, like, being, like, kind of the more stoic one than Durin in the relationship was awesome. Fuck Kemen! King Durin Sr.'s death scene was very appropriate. I think it was handled pretty well. It was cool looking too. I have my feelings about Arondir, him kind of being a vehicle for propaganda in this franchise that I feel like didn't really call for that. Even though, like most fantasy, this franchise's dealings with monarchy and government is very blurry and never like the forefront of the story. Although I guess there's some nepotism storylines within Kemen and Pharazôn, I guess. I don't know. I still was a little off-put by Arondir, but my disdain is showing. So let's get to the addendums. The final addendums! How they deal with orcs is so weird. Because for the longest time, it's been orcs are the side of evil. Because, you know, they're orcs and orcs are evil and it's evil because... And everyone's just kind of been running with that. But then in this season, there's times where it's like, oh no, you know, they actually have reluctancy to go into war and they prioritize their family. And it's like, okay. Especially since we know that this takes place before all the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies where they're like getting slaughtered by the hundreds, thousands. I don't know. The treant scenes were really cool. I appreciated that. I loved the tone. It was scary yet comforting. Yo! The Balrog though looked sick as fuck! I like how by the end of the season it is clear that the good guys are not winning. Subvert my expectations, please! I like the moment where we see the sword that eventually gets handed to Aragorn at some point. Loved that. That was pretty dope. Nice tie-in. I remember sometime within the movies, Galadriel turns all like dark and green and scary and deep sounding. I don't think we ever see like even an inclination of why that happens yet. I am very excited to see why that happens. I believe they are working on a season 3 of the Rings of Power. It makes sense. I mean, there were 3 movies in the original trilogy, 3 movies in the Hobbit trilogy, and 3 seasons in the Rings of Power would be cool. I will say during season 1 of the Rings of Power, I was kind of done with the franchise. I just felt like I've got everything that I've needed from it, you know, and like that show just kind of like drew on. But at the end of season 2, which was so fucking good, I am so excited for season 3, and I am just right back into this franchise, and I will continue to keep up with this franchise. I will. I really will. It's really cool. A great inclusion to American pop culture. I'll give this franchise 7 Palantirs out of 10. Overall, it is a great franchise with great inclusions. And I am excited to keep up with it in the future. Okay, done. We're all done. Check out the videos that'll pop up soon. I'm out of here. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, and all that shit. I am now going to watch even more movies for you. There will be a link in the description to find your local mutual aid center. Shit that's around the house that you can just give, like feminine hygiene products, even food like rice and canned goods, and EpiPens are great. I don't know about other medicines, though. I feel like you should run it by your local mutual aid center before you give out that shit. Go out there and build a community because we might not have it in the future. Thank you for watching. Bye!